The stars outside the viewing window looked calm, but every person on the bridge of the human ship Aurora could feel something wrong. The ship drifted at the edge of a quiet system, far from any trade route, far from any communication relay. It was too silent, like the galaxy was holding its breath. Captain Rian Hale stood at the center, hands behind his back, looking out, thinking. Humans were new to the galaxy. Most alien species saw them as weak, too emotional, too chaotic. But no one fully understood what humanity was capable of doing when cornered. Rian looked over at the science officer, Mira. She was calm, but her eyes kept moving across readings. "Any signals yet?" he asked. She shook her head. "Nothing. But we are not alone here. Something is hiding. I can feel it. It's like we are being watched." Everyone felt it. A quiet fear, strange and deep. That system was not empty. Hours ago, a distress signal was received from a small human colony on the nearest planet. The message was broken, filled with panic and screams. Only one word was clear: run. But humans did not run easily. Humans investigated. Lieutenant Jax, the youngest on the bridge, checked the sensors again. "Reading something. It's faint, metallic, big." Rian's voice became steady and sharp. "Show it." Jax touched a command. The viewing screen flickered. And there it was, appearing like a black shadow growing in empty space. A massive alien ship. Then, another. And another. A fleet. The crew froze. The ships had sharp, spiked designs, like they were built to cut through planets. They were known across the galaxy. The Zorth Dominion. A race that believed conflict was the highest form of survival. They destroyed civilizations not for resources, but for pride. Mira whispered, "If they are here, then the colony is gone." Rian did not reply. But deep inside, he already knew that the humans on the colony were dead. And they were next. The alien fleet was too large. The Aurora was only one ship. A direct fight was impossible. No reinforcements. No escape. They had only one small advantage. The aliens did not know the Aurora was here yet. Jax swallowed hard. "Sir." "Orders." Rian did not speak for a moment. He remembered something from human history. Old wars. Ancient tactics. Tricks used when outnumbered. Humans were good at tricks. He turned slowly, his voice calm, almost cold. "We are not going to run. We are going to erase them." The crew stared. Erase them? An entire fleet? Mira leaned close. "Captain, we have only one ship." Rian nodded. "One ship is enough, if you use it the right way." No one understood yet. But they obeyed. The Aurora began to move slowly, drifting toward the closest asteroid field, hiding itself among thousands of floating rocks. The engines powered down to minimum. Lights dimmed. The ship became a shadow in darkness. The crew worked silently, fear turning into sharp focus. On the alien flagship, a Zorth commander named Varkle watched space with boredom. The humans on the colony were already gone. The victory was easy. Too easy. The Zorth believed humans were insignificant animals who only screamed and died. Yet Varkle felt something strange. A signal. Very faint. Something was in the asteroids. He growled, "Search the rocks. I want whatever is hiding." The alien ships moved forward. Inside the Aurora, the humans waited. Minutes passed. The first alien ship entered the asteroid field. Rian gave a quiet order. "Activate beacon." Jax tapped the panel. Suddenly, a small distress signal began transmitting, a human voice crying for help. It echoed across space. The alien ship moved closer to the signal. Then another ship followed. Then a third. The Aurora stayed silent, invisible. Rian whispered to Mira, "Humans learned long ago, if a predator is bigger, you make it chase bait. Once it is close enough, you strike." The alien ships were now deep inside the asteroid field, surrounded by rocks of all sizes. Rian raised his hand. Release mines. Tiny spheres floated out from the aurora, quiet and cold, drifting among the asteroids. Hundreds of them. Not explosive mines. Gravitational mines. Human experimental technology. Highly unstable. No one else in the galaxy used such things. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable. Perfect for this moment. The alien captain finally saw the trap, but too late. Rian lowered his hand. Mira pressed the trigger. The mines activated. Gravity twisted. Asteroids began pulling into each other, crushing ships between them. Metal screamed. Alien ships shattered like glass. Explosion after explosion lit the darkness. The alien fleet outside panicked. They did not understand. They had never seen humans fight like this. One ship. One tactic. And 3 warships were gone in seconds. The crew of the Aurora watched the destruction in silence, not cheering, not smiling. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting to survive. Rian looked out the window, eyes cold. This is just the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Now, they would learn. The explosions slowly faded in the distance, but the echo of destruction seemed to stay inside the minds of the crew. The asteroid field now held broken metal pieces, drifting like dead leaves in space. The aurora remained hidden, silent, waiting. Everyone knew the next moments would decide if they lived or died. They had surprised the alien fleet once. But surprises only worked once. The Zorth Dominion now knew a human ship was here. Captain Rian Hale stood with a steady expression, but inside, his heartbeat was sharp. He understood the enemy. The Zorth would not retreat. They would attack with full force now, to erase the insult. Mira checked the scanners. They are forming new formation patterns. They are preparing for a direct sweep across the entire field. They will find us. Jax looked tense. We can't hide long. Rian nodded slowly. We won't hide. We move. The Aurora-powered engines at minimal sound signature. The ship slipped between drifting rocks like a quiet shadow. Every movement was slow and careful. A wrong move, a loud engine surge, and the enemy would detect them instantly. Outside, 6 alien destroyers moved in formation. Their scanners glowed red, searching for the human ship. Varkal, the Zorth commander, watched with sharp anger. He slammed his armored fist against the command table. Humans are insects. They do not fight like warriors. They cheat. They hide. They strike from behind. One of his officers spoke carefully. Commander, that is why they are dangerous. Varkal's eyes narrowed. Inside the Aurora, Rian stood beside Mira, studying the fleet's positioning. They expect us to run, he said quietly. Jax looked confused. But, we are running, aren't we? Rian shook his head. No. We are moving to choose where the fight will happen. Not running. Positioning. There was a long, tense silence. Then Mira suddenly looked up, realization flashing in her eyes. The nebula, she whispered. Rian nodded. The nebula. Just beyond this system. A gas field dense enough to block scanners and visuals. But there was a problem. A big one. Jax spoke it aloud. Sir, that nebula is unstable. Ion storms. Plasma lightning. One wrong course correction and we burn. Rian looked at him firmly. Yes. And the Zorth know that. Which is why they will not follow us inside. That is how we survive. The crew exchanged looks. Fear. Trust. Determination. Rian turned to the controls. Set course. Full silent drift. Do not break stealth. The Aurora drifted out of the asteroid field, using gravity from larger rocks to slingshot forward, minimizing energy output. They moved like a ghost. But the alien fleet saw the motion. Alarms rang across the Zorth flagship. Varkle growled. There. The human ship flees to the nebula. Chase them. His second-in-command hesitated. The nebula is unpredictable. Many ships have been lost inside. Varkle struck him, knocking him to the floor. I do not care. No human survives after insulting the Dominion. We chase. The destroyers accelerated. Inside the Aurora, the ship began to shake lightly as the nebula grew closer. Colors of green and purple gases swirled like a giant cosmic storm. Lightning arced silently through clouds of ionized plasma. It was beautiful. And deadly. Mira whispered, "This place is like a living storm." Rian spoke calmly, "Storms are only dangerous when you do not understand them." Jax adjusted controls with trembling hands. Entering nebula in 10 seconds, 8, 6. The ship crossed the edge of the nebula, and instantly, everything changed. The view beyond the windows became foggy, swirling with light and shadow. Scanners went blind. Even sound inside the ship seemed quieter, heavier. The Aurora was now in a maze of electricity and motion. Behind them, the alien ships followed. Lightning struck one of the destroyers. The entire ship's shields overloaded, flickered, and died. The destroyer spun out of control, falling deeper into turbulence. The crew of the Aurora watched, but no one celebrated. This place could easily do the same to them. Rian pointed to a cluster of dense clouds on the tactical display. There. The storm wall. If we move close, the energy fluctuations will reflect our signal. The aliens will not know where we are. Mira shook her head. But the storm wall is unstable. The ship will take damage. Rian answered softly, "Better damage than death." Jax looked at him with admiration. Rian was not fearless. He was afraid like them. But he did not let his fear control him. They moved closer to the storm wall. Lightning arced across their shields, making the ship tremble like a living thing in pain. Warning alarms flashed across the screens. Hull stress rising. Energy shield strain critical. Mira shouted, "We can't stay here long." Rian spoke one word. Now. Jax activated the stabilizer burst. The Aurora released a pulse of energy, shaping the storm wall, bending it around the ship like a cloak. The ship disappeared from scanners. The Zorth fleet entered the nebula, but the human ship was gone to them. Varkle roared, furious. The storm blinded his sensors. He fired weapons blindly into clouds of lightning, but hit nothing. Meanwhile, the Aurora drifted quietly in the storm's shelter, unseen. Mira let out a shaky breath. Jax collapsed into his seat, exhausted. Rian closed his eyes for a moment. They had survived. But they had not won. Because the Zorth fleet was still out there. And humanity was still in danger. Rian opened his eyes. "We move again soon," he said softly. "This is only the second step. To erase an enemy, you must first understand their weakness." And in that storm of cosmic light, a plan began to form. A plan far more dangerous than the first. The Aurora floated silently inside the glowing nebula, wrapped in storms of purple and blue. Outside, lightning surged across the clouds like living veins. The ship's lights flickered every few seconds. Everyone moved carefully, every sound quieter than usual, as if even speaking loudly might disturb the nebula. Captain Rian studied the holographic map that flickered in front of him. The map was incomplete because scanners were almost useless here, but he didn't need full clarity. He needed direction. The Zorth fleet was still searching, but blindly. Their ships moved like predators trapped in fog, hunting something they could not find. Jax sat at the helm, sweat on his forehead. Power levels are dropping. Shields took heavy damage. If lightning hits again, we might lose the main generator. Rian nodded. "We have no choice. We rest only long enough to repair. Then we move." Mira checked ship logs. Crew fatigue rising. Half the team has not slept in almost 20 hours. They won't last at this pace. Rian understood. Humans were strong, but not unbreakable. He turned toward the crew. Rotate shifts. Only essential stations remain active. Everyone else rests. Even though fear was still thick in the air, no one argued. They trusted him. The lights dimmed more as non-essential systems powered down. Half the crew left the bridge, moving quietly through dim hallways. Some shaken, some silent, all tired. Jack stayed at his post, but his voice was soft. "Captain, what is the real plan? We can't just keep running forever." Rian looked out into the swirling nebula. "We are not running. We are learning. Before you defeat an enemy, you must know why they fight." Mira leaned forward. "The Zorth, they fight for domination." "No," Rian replied. "They fight because they believe they cannot be defeated. Their pride is their shield. Their pride is also their weakness." The nebula flashed, a silent burst of purple light. "We will not attack their fleet," Rian continued. "We will attack their belief." Jax didn't understand yet. But he would soon. Hours passed. Repairs were slow, careful. The nebula's storms were unpredictable. One moment quiet, the next violent. A sudden shock rocked the ship. The hull vibrated. Lights flickered sharply. Myra's eyes widened. Something is approaching, but not a ship. A signal. Jax tapped controls. It's human frequency, repeating code. The bridge fell silent. Rian spoke carefully. "Play it." The speakers crackled. A voice came through, weak, distorted, but human. "This is the colony research vessel Echo 1, trapped, engines offline, life support failing." Mira covered her mouth. Survivors. Someone had lived through the attack. Jax's voice trembled. "We have to rescue them." Rian closed his eyes. His heart wanted to say yes immediately. But he had to think like a commander, not just a human. The distress signal could be a trap. The Zorth sometimes used imitation signals taken from destroyed ships to lure survivors. Mira watched him closely. "If it's real, they will die soon." Rian opened his eyes. "We go. But we go carefully." The Aurora set a new course through the nebula, navigating slowly. Lightning crawled across the shield again, but the ship held. Then, through the glowing fog, the Echo 1 appeared. A small science ship, drifting powerless, hull cracked but still intact. Its lights were weak, flickering like a candle almost gone. Jax whispered, "Looks like they barely survived." Mira scanned the ship. 2 life signs. 1 in critical condition. The docking clamps extended. The airlock opened. 2 figures were brought aboard, one unconscious, the other barely standing. A woman with dirt and blood on her jacket. Her eyes were filled with fear deeper than anything the crew had seen. She looked at Rian and whispered, voice small but steady, "They didn't just destroy the colony, they did something worse." Rian leaned forward. "Tell me." The woman, Dr. Lyra Soul, shivered as if remembering a nightmare. "The Zorth. They took something. A device. A human experiment. Something we were building." Myra's eyes narrowed. "What kind of experiment?" Dr. Lyra swallowed hard. "It was a psychological weapon. Not physical. If activated, it changes how enemies perceive human forces. Makes them believe humans are everywhere. Makes them panic." Jax stared. "A fear weapon." Dr. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes. And the Zorth want to use it against us. To break humanity from inside." The bridge went silent. Rian understood instantly. The Zorth did not only want to destroy humans. They wanted to erase hope. Rian's voice was steady, but something new burned behind it, something sharp. "They cannot keep that device." Mira asked quietly, "So what do we do now?" Rian looked out into the glowing storm one last time, the nebula flashing like a beating heart. "We no longer hide," he said. We strike. Not their fleet. Not their ships. His voice grew colder. We strike their command ship. We take back the device. We break their pride. The plan was no longer about survival. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humans do not bow. Humans do not run. Humans fight back. The crew felt it. Fear turned into fire. The storm outside rumbled like it agreed. The atmosphere inside the Aurora changed after Dr. Lyra's words. The quiet fear that once filled the crew had turned into something sharper, stronger. Everyone now knew the mission was bigger than survival. If the Zorth used the stolen human device, it could break humanity's spirit across the galaxy. Humans would not only lose battle, they would lose hope. Captain Rian stood in the center of the bridge, staring into the shifting nebula outside. Lightning glowed along the clouds like nervous veins. The nebula had shielded them for now, but it would not protect them forever. Time was running out. Dr. Lyra sat weakly in a chair, still recovering. Her voice was soft but serious. The device is stored on the Zorth flagship. It needs activation codes. Only human minds can operate it. They can't use it yet, but they are studying it. Once they understand, it will be too late. Mira listened closely. So we have to retrieve it before they learn how it works. Lyra nodded. Or destroy it. Jax clenched his hands. So we attack. One ship against a fleet. Rian finally turned from the viewport. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a controlled fire. Not a direct attack. That would be suicide. We strike from inside. Mira realized it first. A boarding plan. Rian nodded once. Yes. The room went quiet again, but not from fear, thought. Planning. Preparing. Jax frowned. But how do we get close? We can't just fly up to their flagship and knock. Rian tapped a control. A hologram of the flagship flickered into view. A massive black shape covered in armored plating, like a giant metallic beast. On its underside was a large docking bay, guarded, but not impossible to reach. Rian spoke slowly. We let them think we are dead. Myra's eyes widened. A fake destruction. Exactly, Rian said. We use the nebula's storm to fake our ship's explosion signal. They will believe the storm finished us. Their guards will relax. Their search will stop. Then we slip into their docking bay undetected. Jax looked worried. But sir, the ship itself will take massive damage if we go too deep in the storm. Rian nodded. I know. The Aurora may not survive. But the mission must. Silence again. Then Mira stepped forward. I will go on the boarding team. Jax followed. Me too. Other voices soon joined. The crew knew the risk. They also knew the cost of failure. Dr. Lyra spoke weakly. I should go as well. I know the device better than anyone. Without me, you might not even recognize it. Rian hesitated. She was injured, exhausted, but she was right. Then you stay close to me, he said quietly. The plan was set. Hours later, the Aurora moved deeper into the nebula. The storm around them roared louder, plasma lightning striking the hull. The ship shook, groaned, metal straining. Warning lights painted the bridge red. Energy pulsed across the shields, burning away stability. The ship was suffering. Mira gripped the control panel. Shields collapsing, hull at critical stress. Jax's voice cracked. If we go any further. Rian didn't blink. Further. The ship trembled violently. Lightning slammed into the hull again. Then Rian spoke sharply. Release decoy beacon. A small device ejected from the ship, drifting out into the storm. It broadcast a single message. Human ship destroyed. A moment later, lightning struck it. The beacon exploded in a spectacular flash. A massive energy burst spread across the nebula. From afar, it looked like a ship dying. On the Zorth flagship, scanners detected the explosion. Officers reported immediately. Human signature erased. Varkle, the Zorth commander, leaned back slowly, satisfied. Then it is done. Let the ship burn. The humans die in storms like insects. The fleet relaxed. The search ended. Exactly as Rian planned. The Aurora slid quietly out of the nebulous shadow, power low, lights dark, moving like a silent predator. They approached the flagship. No alarms. No defensive fire. No suspicion. Jax guided the ship carefully toward the docking bay. The bay doors opened automatically, assuming it was returning debris or patrol vessels. The ship entered the vast metallic interior. The atmosphere sealed around them with a metallic hiss. The Aurora touched down. The crew looked around. This was enemy territory now. Rian stood. No loud weapons. No unnecessary noise. No mistakes. Mira, Jax, Dr. Lyra, and 6 others followed him. Helmets on. Breathing slow. Hearts fast. The airlock opened. The light outside was cold and blue. Alien architecture surrounded them. Sharp angles, metallic surfaces, lights pulsing like heartbeat rhythms. It felt alive. Watching. Mira whispered, "This place feels like it hates us." Rian did not answer. He listened. Footsteps. Echoes. Voices. Distant but close enough to find them if they made a wrong move. They moved through the corridor, silent shadows. Then suddenly, a large door opened ahead. A Zorth soldier stepped out. Tall. Armored. Eyes glowing orange. He saw them. The moment froze. No one breathed. The alien let out a low, angry growl. Jax whispered, "Captain." Rian's voice was quiet. Cold. "Take him down." The fight had begun. And there was no turning back now. The Zorth soldier reacted first, raising his weapon, but Rian was faster. He lunged forward, striking the alien in the throat, the weak point between armor plates. The soldier staggered, and Jax slammed his shoulder into the alien's knees, bringing him crashing down. Mira finished it with a quick electric pulse shot to the helmet. The alien's body went still. The hallway was silent again, but everyone's pulse raced. Rian spoke in a low voice. "Drag him aside." No trace. They pulled the body behind a support pillar. The crew moved on, deeper into the ship. The corridors were wide and dark, lit with pulsating blue lines that seemed to breathe. The air smelled metallic, cold, almost unnatural. Every step echoed, so each footfall was placed carefully. Dr. Lyra whispered, "The device should be stored in the central research vault. Near the control chamber." Jax frowned. "And the control chamber is where their commander is." Rian gave a tight nod. "Yes. We will need to pass him." There was no fear in his voice, only clarity. They moved like shadows, taking turns checking corners, pressing close to walls. Every sound in the distance made their hearts stop for a moment. The ship felt alive, like it was listening. After several minutes, they reached a large observation balcony overlooking a deep chamber. Below them were dozens of Zorth soldiers, engineers, scientists, and in the center of the chamber, locked inside an energy cage, was the device. It was smaller than expected, just a smooth dark cube with faint white lines across its surface. It didn't look like a weapon. It looked silent, calm. But that silence was more terrifying than any gun. Lyra leaned forward, whispering, "That's it. The fear catalyst." Jax stared. "Looks harmless." Lyra shook her head slowly. "The deadliest weapons often do." But something else was in that chamber as well. Standing tall, armored in black and gold, his eyes burning like 2 molten suns. Varkle. The Zorth commander. He watched the device like a king watching his throne. His presence alone felt heavy, like the air thickened around him. Mira whispered, her voice trembling, "If he sees us." Rian held up a hand. "We only need to cause distraction." Then get down, take the device, and get out. Jax whispered. What distraction? Rian looked at him and for a moment, Jax understood. Rian didn't need to say it. They were going to blow something up. Rian pointed upward. Above the chamber, running along the ceiling, were power conduits glowing with energy. If they overloaded those lines, it would trigger power failure, alarms, smoke, chaos. Not enough to destroy the ship, but enough to blind sensors temporarily. Mira nodded. I can overload the conduits. But once I begin, we'll have less than 30 seconds before backup systems activate. Rian's voice sharpened. Then we take the device in 20. The team positioned themselves. Mira and a technician moved toward the maintenance access panel. Jax and 2 others prepared rappel lines to descend quickly into the chamber. Rian stayed beside Dr. Lyra. He could see her hands shaking, not from fear, but from purpose. She whispered, if we don't escape, promise me you destroy the device rather than let them keep it. Rian looked at her. We are leaving with it. All of us. Her eyes filled with a quiet trust. Myra's voice cut through the silence. Ready, overloading in 3, 2, 1. A sudden burst of bright white light filled the chamber. Electricity crackled across the ceiling. Then darkness. Then alarms. Soldiers below shouted in confusion. Backup lights flickered, weak and unstable. Rian shouted, go. Jax jumped first, sliding down the rope, boots hitting the floor cleanly. 2 more followed. Rian and Lyra descended last. The chaos in the chamber grew rapidly. Sparks fell from the ceiling like burning snow. Varkle turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. He sensed something wrong. Rian reached the energy cage. Lyra immediately activated her wrist device, typing fast. The energy field flickered. Jax covered them, weapon ready. The field shut down. Rian grabbed the dark cube. It was cold. Too cold. Like holding something that didn't belong in this universe. Varkle roared, the sound shaking the chamber. His soldiers drew weapons. Rian shouted, smoke. Now. A crew member tossed several spheres. They exploded into thick black smoke, rolling across the chamber. Vision vanished. Chaos erupted. Screams. Shouts. The sound of metal against metal. Rian grabbed Lyra's hand. Move. They ran toward the exit ramp at full speed. Jax and others formed a protective circle. A plasma shot flashed past, nearly hitting them. Another struck the wall, cracking it open. Suddenly, Varkle burst through the smoke, towering, unstoppable. His heavy footfalls struck like thunder. He swung a massive blade, cutting one of Rian's soldiers down instantly. The team froze. Varkle stepped closer. Rian stepped in front of Lyra, raising his weapon. Varkle smiled. A cruel, slow smile. He spoke in a voice like grinding stone. You cannot run from the Dominion. You cannot hide from your fate. Rian breathed in once. Then he said quietly, humans write their own fate. Their eyes locked. The future of both species hung in that moment. Then Rian fired. Rian's shot struck Varkle directly in the chest. The blast echoed like thunder. But when the smoke cleared, Varkle was still standing. The armor on his chest glowed red where the blast hit, but it did not break. The commander tilted his head, almost amused, like a predator watching prey try something hopeless. Jax whispered, that should have killed him. Varkle stepped forward, each step heavy and slow, showing that he was in no hurry. He raised his sword again, its edge glowing with burning energy. The floor shook under him. Rian didn't wait. Move. The team scattered. The commander's blade smashed into the ground where they had stood seconds ago, sending sparks and cracked metal into the air. Jax pulled Mira behind a support pillar, breathing hard. Shots flew from every direction as Zorth soldiers recovered from the smoke and confusion. Dr. Lyra stayed close to Rian, clutching the dark cube tightly. Rian fired again, this time aiming at joints in the armor. The shots struck, but Varkel's armor absorbed them, humming like it was drinking the energy. Mira shouted, "His armor! It's kinetic absorb. The more we shoot, the stronger he gets." Jax cursed. So we stop shooting. They needed another way. Varkel moved again, fast this time. Too fast. He swung his blade in a sweeping arc. One of Rian's crew didn't even have time to scream before the blade cut through his armor. Another was thrown across the chamber like a ragdoll, hitting the wall and falling still. Rian's heart tightened, but he didn't stop moving. Jax grabbed a loose metal cable from the damaged ceiling. "Captain! Up here!" Rian looked up. The energy conduits Mira had overloaded were still unstable. Power lines dangled overhead, sparking violently. Rian understood. He shouted, "Draw him under the power grid." Jax and Mira sprinted left, yelling and firing bursts into the air, not at Varkel, just to get his attention. Varkel turned. He saw them run. He followed, heavy steps shaking the floor. Jax slid under a support beam, breathing hard. Mira whispered, "He's big. He thinks we're cornered. Let him believe it." Varkel approached, towering over them, blade ready. He raised the sword to strike. Rian shouted, "Now!" Jax threw the electrified cable directly onto the metal plating under Varkel's feet. The floor lit up in a violent white flash. Electricity surged upward, ripping through the commander's armor. The shock was massive enough to shake the chamber. Varkel roared, this time in pain, not rage. His armor flickered. The glowing orange in his eyes dimmed. Rian didn't hesitate. He charged forward and slammed his shoulder into Varkel's chest, driving him backward. The two collided into the support railing near the chamber wall. The metal bent from the force. Varkel pushed him away with one huge arm, sending Rian skidding across the floor. But now, the commander staggered. His movements were slower, heavier. Mira ran to Rian. "You okay?" He pushed himself up, breathing hard. "Not done yet." Meanwhile, Zorth soldiers rushed closer. Jax and the others formed a defensive wall around Dr. Lyra. Plasma shots flew across the chamber again. Sparks showered. Smoke thickened. The cube in Lyra's hands felt heavier now, like the fate of humanity pressed itself into her palms. Rian stood up and faced Varkel again. The commander's breathing sounded like metal grinding against metal. His voice came low and rough. "You think this changes anything, human?" Rian wiped blood from his mouth. "Yes. Because now, we are not afraid of you." Varkel roared and charged again, raising his sword high. Rian waited, just 1 second. Then Jax hit the release switch attached to the damaged power junction. Another violent surge. This time, lightning from the ceiling struck Varkel directly. The commander screamed, a deep, furious sound that shook dust from the ceiling. His armor cracked. The blade fell from his hand, hitting the floor with a heavy clang. He dropped to one knee. Rian approached slowly. The chamber was still full of smoke and gunfire, but in that small circle of space, everything felt quiet. Rian raised his weapon, but stopped. He did not need to shoot. Varkel looked up at him, eyes flickering weakly. "If a humans fight like this, then maybe the galaxy should fear you." Rian said nothing. Varkel collapsed, his heavy armor making the floor shudder. For a moment, no one moved. Then Mira whispered, "We need to go. Now." Jax shouted, "Extraction path closing. More soldiers incoming." Rian turned to Dr. Lyra. "You have the device?" She nodded, holding it close. He looked at his remaining team. "We move. We do not stop. Not one step." They sprinted out of the chamber, alarms screaming through the corridors. Red lights flashed everywhere. Voices in the alien language echoed like angry thunder. The Aurora was waiting. If they could reach it. But outside the docking bay, the rest of the Zorth fleet began to move. This was no longer escape. This was a race against death. The alarms echoed through every hallway. Red lights flashed, turning the metal corridors into rivers of warning. The Zorth ship was awake now. The humans were no longer ghosts. They were targets. Rian led the team at full speed, boots striking metal. Dr. Lyra ran close behind him, holding the dark cube tightly against her chest. Jax and Mira covered the rear, firing short bursts to slow the soldiers chasing them. The sound of alien roars followed them like a storm. Jax shouted, "Docking bay is just ahead." Rian pushed forward. "Keep moving. Don't stop." They burst into the docking bay, huge, wide, filled with ships and platforms. And there, in the center, was the Aurora, still dark, still in silent mode, waiting exactly where they left it. But they weren't alone. A squad of Zorth soldiers blocked the path, armor ready, weapons raised. The two sides stared at each other for one breath. Then, everything exploded into motion. Jax slid behind supply crates and fired. Mira dropped to one knee and shot clean, precise bursts. Rian rushed forward, tackling the nearest soldier before he could fire. Metal clashed. Sparks flew. The air filled with smoke and shouts. Dr. Lyra hid behind a support beam, clutching the cube like her life itself depended on it, because it did. The fight was fast and brutal. Humans were smaller, lighter, but faster and desperate. The Zorth were stronger, heavier, but slowed by berserk rage. One of the humans took a plasma shot to the chest. Fell instantly. Another Zorth soldier was taken down by Jax's close-range blast. Rian broke free, breathing hard. "Move. Move to the ship." They dashed up the boarding ramp. The door closed behind them, sealing out the sounds of the battle. Jax collapsed into the pilot's seat. Engines powering. The ship vibrated as systems came online. The hum of life returned to the metal around them. Mira activated shields. "We've been detected. The entire fleet is turning toward us." Rian took his position at the center. He looked at Dr. Lyra. "The device. Can it be activated now?" She nodded shakily. "Yes. But once activated, it affects minds through signal projection. It will cause fear hallucinations in every Zorth within range, but it may also affect us." Rian looked at her steadily. "Then activate at minimum range. Project outward only. No internal contact." She adjusted the cube carefully, tapping commands with shaking hands. The ship lifted off. The docking bay doors began to close, but Jax pushed engines to full. The Aurora shot forward like a spear, slipping through the narrowing gap just in time. Outside, the Zorth fleet filled the space like an iron wall. Dozens of ships, all aiming at them. Jax whispered, "There's no way through." Rian spoke quietly. "There is. Lyra." Dr. Lyra took a long breath and pressed her palm to the cube. The cube pulsed. A ripple of white energy expanded outward, silent and slow, like a heartbeat spreading across space. At first, nothing happened. Then, the Zorth ships began to turn. Not toward the humans. Toward each other. Their pilots shouted in fear, believing human ships were surrounding them, boarding them, attacking them from every direction, hallucinations filling their vision. The Zorth didn't know what was real anymore. Their discipline collapsed. The fleet broke formation. Chaos spread. Two battleships fired directly into each other. Another spun sideways into a destroyer. Explosions filled the dark like falling stars. Mira stared, shocked. "It's working," Jax whispered. "They're afraid." Rian watched silently. For the first time, the path through the fleet opened, a corridor formed by confusion and panic. Jax didn't wait. He accelerated. The Aurora shot through the chaos, weaving between burning wreckage and drifting hull pieces. But the strain on the ship was enormous. Engines glowed too hot. Shields flickered weakly. Mira shouted, "We can't stay here. If we remain in range, the device will overload." Rian turned to Lyra. "Shut it down." Lyra pressed commands, but the cube didn't respond. Her eyes widened. "The power feedback, it's locked. It's stuck on." The device was overheating. Cracks formed across its surface. Light spilled through the cracks like something inside was alive and trying to escape. If it exploded, the ship would vanish. Rian stepped toward her. "Give it to me." Lyra hesitated, just 1 second, then placed the cube into his hands. It was burning hot. Rian's gloves smoked. He didn't react. He walked to the emergency airlock. Myra's voice broke. "Rian, don't." He looked back at his crew, his family. Jack stood frozen, eyes wide. Lyra whispered, "Please, don't do this." Rian smiled softly. "Not happy. Just real. We survive. All of us." That was the promise. He opened the airlock. A rush of wind pulled at his clothes. He threw the device into space. It spun once, then exploded into a silent sphere of white light, spreading far, fading slowly like a dying star. The hallucination effect stopped instantly. The Zorth fleet fell into silence. Some ships burned. Some drifted. Some powered down completely. No one fired. No one moved. The war paused. Rian closed the airlock and turned back to the bridge. Jax swallowed hard. "Captain, course." Rian spoke quietly, but his voice carried strength again. "Home. We warn the others. The galaxy will not forget this day." The Aurora jumped into faster-than-light travel. The nebula vanished behind them. The stars stretched forward. And humanity moved into the future, not as prey, but as something the galaxy would never underestimate again. The end.